Fallout 76 takes the elements of Fallout 4 that were the least fun to play and smashes them into an aggressively average multiplayer survival game that's more fun with friends, in the same way that having a mate perform open heart surgery on you makes that experience slightly more tolerable. You have no idea if they know what they're doing, but neither do you, so you both just kind of go with it. To be clear up front, I was personally all for the idea of a multiplayer Fallout game. Unfortunately, the execution leaves a hell of a lot to be desired, and we're left with exactly what the game cynics expected: a hollow experience in a lifeless, empty world that recalls absolutely none of the charm of Bethesda's earlier open world epics. Instead of navigating a dangerous world full of interesting characters, strange towns and engaging quests, I was thrown into a world utterly devoid of life or personality of any kind. You'll step out into a promisingly massive open world, and the first few hours are spent wandering between quest markers and picking up items, with the odd terminal thrown in for some very half-hearted world building. It felt like I'd arrived a few hours after the real game had finished, and I was simply cleaning up after a more interesting story that I'd already missed. The radio stations are still great though, and it's always nice to hear the Beach Boys, so that's something. The further I got into the game, the more I realised with creeping dread that this really is all there is to Fallout 76 in terms of missions. An endless parade of fetch quests with absolutely no reason to care about why I'm doing what I'm doing. There's the occasional change of pace, like an obstacle course, or one memorable quest where I got to shoot a rabbit with a mind-reading dart, but it's usually not much more than go over here and pick up that thing. In between missions, you'll be doing that thing you either hated or loved in Fallout 4, picking up every bottle and bit of junk or scrap metal you can feasibly carry so that you can upgrade your weapons and gear and craft fancy new bases. Oh, there's also the standard hunger and thirst meters to look after, because even in 2018 we apparently can't agree that including this feature in a video game is not fun and is very rarely done well enough to justify inclusion. Without the rich, engaging world, characters, or quests behind it, without the complex moral choices and branching paths, the game's flaws become that much more obvious. For a start, it doesn't look anything like as good as an open world game should look in 2018, and the experience is absolutely riddled with bugs. Yes, games like Skyrim and Fallout 4 were buggy, but this was something we could often overlook and even laugh about because the experience was so immersive, so detailed, and so grand that bugs very rarely impacted the overall experience. Here, whenever there's a frame rate drop, or the screen freezes, or I literally drop dead for no reason at all, I'm a lot less willing to laugh it off because I'm just not having fun. The multiplayer can, on occasion, be anywhere between just okay and kind of fun, depending on who you're playing with. Building bases and fighting enemies with a squad isn't awful, but this kind of thing is simply done much better in so many other games. While Bethesda certainly intended this game to focus on jolly cooperation, PvP is present. The problem is that once again, it's just not as interesting as it could be, thanks to rubbish combat and a real-time VAT system that is borderline broken. As more players approach the endgame and unlock the nuclear launch codes, it will be interesting to see just how much of the world can be shaken up, and whether it's enough to keep players invested. It's not all bad. I firmly believe the idea of a multiplayer Fallout does have a lot of potential, and I think Bethesda really are capable of delivering a number of updates and improvements that make the game more engaging and closer to what I, and many others, hoped it could be. What we have right now though is a plodding, uninspired shadow of Fallout's former self, one that might improve as more approach the endgame, but given just how boring the path to the end is, I doubt many people will stick with it for that long. What are your thoughts on Fallout 76 so far? Let us know below, and be sure to stick with UNILAD Gaming on Facebook for all the best gaming news, previews and reviews.